I don't admit, I don't have to have my defenses up anymore. Exactly. It's hard to realize that. I know, I like big vitamin water. Yeah. It's really not accepting the past. Like what I'm experiencing is like, it's not accepting the past. It's not accepting the past. It's like, you don't have to accept the past. You have to recognize the person that wasn't catered to during these experiences. So you don't have to recognize that maybe you were sexually assaulted at 12 years old, right? You have to recognize that there's a 12-year-old inside of you that's angry and she's mad. And when you sit there and you say, why are you mad? And she starts being feisty and throwing temper tantrums, you have to be like, oh, you're a teenager. That's fine. You want to throw a temper tantrum? You want to be mad? Okay, you're valid. That is valid. You want to be mean? You want to be pissed off? You want to like sit there and shrug your shoulders and turn around and stomp your feet? You are valid to have that feeling. And then slowly, through validating that younger person of you, that person that experienced pain, not the experience, but that person, that part of you, by validating that and feeling that, you slowly start to realize it's okay. And they realize it's okay. And that separate younger child of you doesn't have to be something that's lurching onto your brain, that's holding you down. It can just become a part of you. Right? And maybe you're gonna feel it later. Maybe that child part of you is gonna be mad again. Maybe they're gonna sit on a fucking chair and chew bubblegum and be like, fuck you. Well, you're a teenager. You're a bitchy teenager. That's fine. I'm gonna validate you when you're mad at me again. And we're gonna feel and we're gonna move on. Instead of being like, no, we're too old and you're stupid for feeling this. Get over it. That's the reality of it. Erase the bitchy teenager is not so fun. No. I was cracking up when I was arguing with myself at 12 years old on the last ketamine experience. And then towards the end of it, I was cracking up. I was laughing at myself. I cried, right? I cried out all the pain. And then after I started validating her, we started laughing. And you know what we started laughing about? We started laughing about soccer practice. Like I was like visualizing soccer practice. And then when I was not high on ketamine anymore, you know what I did? I went and I made beaded bracelets because my 12-year-old self loved making beaded bracelets. And I just gave her that little real life validation through the internal thoughts that I had. And it just felt so nice. It was so nice. Or yeah, mac and cheese in an oversized bowl. Exactly. You began to realize you can let those feelings go after you felt them. Exactly. The unhealed child lives within us. Radical acceptance is healthy as fuck. Yeah. Then you have to move on. You will always have her with you. Exactly. She's always going to be a part of me. Thanks, typical. Had to find what made me happy again. I love that. I have Leanson. They should teach this to everyone. Like the idea about reparenting, just look up reparenting whenever you're like bored and alone, because all of us I think a lot of the times we go through like maybe our parents were the best to us or we felt neglected in certain situations. So reparenting yourself, being your own parent to all of your past selves is such a powerful thing. When my therapist told me that, I was like, a light bulb went off on my head. I was like, wow, that is like, I've never thought about that idea. Like, so the first time I did ketamine, I had nightmares all night, right? I only had 1 hour of sleep after the first ketamine experience because I was 6 years old and I was reliving the very first time I was molested, and I was like begging for help from a sibling and my mom, right? So I had like those two experiences that I was like reliving on my first experience ketamine. And that night, what happened is I had nightmares, terrible nightmares, and I had 1 hour of sleep, and I woke up and I was panicking. I started looking around my house. I was walking around my house. I started turning all the lights on. I started looking at all the doors. And then I started like panicking and I was like, oh my God, I can't get to sleep. I'm paranoid. Someone's going to break in my house, blah, blah, blah. So I stayed up all night, right? And then I talked to my therapist the next day and she was like, so when you were scared and you woke up from your nightmares, how old do you think you were? What age were you? Because you just had this experience on ketamine where you said you were a child. So like, what age do you feel like you were when you were worried and nervous and scared? And I was like, in my mind, I felt like I was 6 again and I was terrified. But like, I told myself to just like get over it and fucking go to sleep. And she looked at me and she was like, would you tell yourself? Or she looked at me and she was like, would you tell a 6-year-old to get over it and go to sleep? And I was like, no. I would hug her and comfort her and tell her it's okay. And she was like, exactly. So if you're scared and you wake up scared, then just love yourself and say it's okay. And what do you need to do to feel better about being afraid? If that's walking around your house and turning every single light on in your house, checking all the locks, and then sitting back in your bed and saying, okay, all my lights are on and I'm okay because I love me and I'm here for me, then that's okay and calming.